In one scene, his 20-year-old daughter brings home a 66-year-old man that she wants to marry. Cosby is appalled. This guy is robbing the cradle. What does he do? He calls for a sandwich and a Coke. And then he holds the Coke bottle prominently next to his face for the rest of the scene. First it says Coca-Cola, then the next shot it says Coke, in case you missed the point. Who released this movie? Columbia. Who owns Columbia? Coca-Cola. What is Coca-Cola doing with this movie? They have a lot of products in this movie, Gene, that you can get a tie-in where you can get the product in connection with buying a ticket for the movie. I think that that is an all-time low. Bill Cosby, the richest man in show business, $67.5 million income last year, reduced to holding a Coca-Cola bottle next to his face in order to get a picture made at Columbia. He ought to be ashamed of himself.
Boy, you're upset. And you know I am too.
Halle Berry has a topless scene in here, and it's almost as if they wrote, now Halle Berry gets topless. Well, you know what? I'm in favor of that in a movie like this. I love that Hugh Jackman, you know, they always do this when they try to pull somebody back into the crime world. They say, well, if you'd like custody of your daughter, you've got to do this. Now, he's a computer hacker. His ex-wife is married to the porn king of Southern California, and they're doing porn movies starring mom in their home. And I'm thinking, you know, the computer hacker guy probably could win custody without getting back into a life of crime.
Now, in this first scene that we're going to look at, Brian Keith is a tough American colonel who is about to be kidnapped. And as you watch this scene, remember what I call the rule of the suspicious pedestrian. Now, this is the rule that states that in a thriller, whenever the hero's car hits a person clothed in concealing female garments who walks directly in front of the car, that person is not a female and is not dead. I forgot to mention that in order to get on that road in the first place, they had to take a detour. And rule number 2 states, all detours are set up by terrorists.
Okay, our next film is called Frozen Assets, and we take a step way down in quality here. This is one of the dumbest comedies I have ever seen.
You're going very easy on it, I say.
So far. Let me try. It was as depressing an experience as I've ever had going to the movies. That's 23 years of going to the movies professionally. Maybe 6,000 to 7,000 pictures.
Well, Gene, I was going to the movies professionally for 2 or 3 years before you were, and there was nothing I saw during that time that even approached this in its abysmal awfulness. This is perhaps the worst comedy ever made. And you know the theory of reincarnation?
They may take the ad out.
That makes it sound good.
They get the second worst comedy ever made. Okay, they won't use it.
Not even the worst comedy ever made, just the worst movie ever made. I don't know. You know the theory of reincarnation, where the dues we pay in this lifetime, we may get to collect it in another lifetime. For having seen this movie, I want months and months and months in a beautiful valley with honey and nectar and zephyr-like breezes. I mean, years perhaps would be appropriate.
You know, you have simple tastes. I couldn't.
And a big car.
This is get something valuable.
And they first meet on an airplane, and she follows him into the restroom. She has sex with him, and then she says that's strike one against him because she had to make the first move. Yeah, like, for example, a dude is going to break into the restroom and make love with a woman he's never seen before. I don't think so. I think that's how you get to meet the Federal Air Marshal.
Well, and that's how you end up at the clinic the next week as well. This is a terrible movie. Ashton Kutcher is a terrible actor who doesn't even try to become a character in his movies, Roger. He plays the same doofus. I'm looking at this guy and thinking, Dude, Where's My Car is his career highlight. And yet he keeps getting starring roles in movies because I guess the tabloids like him or he's on a TV show. And if you were going to pick anybody in Hollywood to play a workaholic, self-serious guy, would you go with Keanu Reeves? Is that bad casting?
I don't think so. He just approaches it by being abrupt with everyone.
Exactly.
Cutting off his sentences.
I knew we were in really big trouble when he climbed through the window at the Thanksgiving scene with a big bundle of presents, including a wacky wig and bubbles and dance records, as they look back on the wonderful 8 days they've spent together in this relationship.
Yeah, he climbs through the window. He's like Santa Claus. And out of the bag, among the things he takes out of the bag is an automatic dishwasher. Now, how can you get an automatic dishwasher into a bag small enough that you can climb through a second floor window with it over your shoulder? The answer, I'm afraid, is this is a very small automatic dishwasher. But as he pulls it out of the bag, I was just shaking my head in disbelief.
And you make a real good point, too, about the obligatory gay. I want to get one of those gay best friends who exists only to live down the hall and bring you warm chicken soup and be funny and flamboyant, and they have no life of their own. I mean, talk about an offensive categorization. This is just a really terrible movie.
You got it. This movie is unbelievable. One of my favorite scenes involves Mary Sinclair, that girl who comes out from London and becomes such a successful prostitute that when the one Tai-Pan's notes are called in, she is, but just from her savings account, she's able to advance him enough money to buy all of Hong Kong, which inspires that fabulous line, "You're not the Mary Sinclair I knew."
Yeah.
Apparently what happened is the entire British Empire went out there and spent 40 years in bed, right? And occasionally they got up for a costume dance or a sword fight. And the other amazing thing is none of these guys age. You notice that?
I didn't notice
You see
that.
Brian Brown at the beginning, they're shelling the Chinese coast. It's about 1802 or 1804.
Right.
40 years later, he's still dancing around in the parapets in this big sword fight. Meanwhile, he's got a grown son. I mean, he must be about 80 by then, and he hasn't, not a single whisker has changed. It's unbelievable.
Roger will be back with more comments about this movie on other shows. It will take other shows to complete your review.
And isn't it just sad to see these two Oscar-winning actresses playing cardboard caricatures in supporting roles as Murphy's thoroughly unlikable Stacy takes center stage?
Password, password, password. What would his password be? Thank you. What?
Great chemistry there between Murphy and the dog. Now, not only is Stacy duplicitous, she's quite dim. It takes her forever to figure out that one ex-girlfriend isn't a podiatrist, she's a gynecologist, don't even ask. With Don't Say a Word, Just Married, Uptown Girls, and now Little Black Book, the once charming Brittany Murphy has been piling up all these little train wrecks one after another, thumbs way down for me.
I don't know why you hate Brittany Murphy so much.
I don't hate her.
You sure do. You're really tough on her. I like her. I like this movie, and I'm telling you, she is a movie star. She has it. She's got that quality that makes you look at her on the screen. In this movie,
is it the overacting
listen.
Here is a movie where the most amazing thing in the history of mankind occurs. Their girlfriend is inside a man's body. Incredible. And so what is the first thing these ditzy airheads ask? They want to look at his family jewels. These characters are too stupid to be in a movie. About half an hour into the screening, the film got trapped in the projector and it caught fire. That was the good news. The bad news was the screening continued and hardly any of the film was destroyed.
Well, I will say this for the film, it's in color, and it was mostly in focus, and I really can't say any more for it beyond that.
And when I saw She's Out of Control, I became so depressed I actually thought about quitting my job as a film critic, feeling as though the movies had abandoned me, because what I was seeing there really wasn't a movie. It was some sort of strange concoction of someone who didn't understand what movies were all about. Fortunately, however, I would see the movie Say Anything later in the same day, and all is right with the world. I'm still on the job.
You know, people probably think you're joking when you said that you were really thinking of quitting your job. But I know what you felt, because I sat there and I thought, life is precious, life is short, and the idiots who made this film are taking 2 hours of my life and robbing it from me in order to give me less than nothing.
It's really bad. I always wonder when I'm in a bad, I don't know if you have this reaction, when I'm in a bad movie in a theater, aren't you surprised that people stay?
I think maybe they've spent their money.
But
they don't have any place to go for 2 hours.
Yes, but I would say this, when you talk about robbing your life, see, my thing I've always wanted to say to the people, I've always wanted to stand up in the middle of a bad movie in a theater and say, aren't your lives worth more for 2 hours than even say $7 in New York City? $3.50 an hour. That's below the minimum wage, the new minimum wage. I mean, get out and live.
Go stand in the lobby and talk.
Now, in 1838, physicist Charles Wheatstone invented a special viewing device that could show two images from two angles simultaneously. 165 years later, we have these. Not much advancement.
You know, my dad took me to see the first 3D movie, Wanna Devil. And I've seen just about every 3D movie since then, and I'm going to tell you, 3D sucks as a way of looking at movies. 2D looks a lot better. It's more convincing, it's brighter, it's crisper, it's cleaner. 3D, even the very best systems I've seen, kind of washes out things and makes them murky and doesn't add anything, because I don't care if the arm comes toward me in the screen. I'm really not really moved by that.
Yeah. You know, I don't think you're being fair when you say there's only one joke in this movie. There are other jokes in this movie, and I know it's stupid, and I know it's beneath the level of Annette Bening and Gary Shandling and Greg Kinnear and this terrific cast, but you know what? I kept laughing, and maybe I shouldn't have been laughing.
You like this movie?
I laughed a lot at this
movie.
And I even...